Today, I want to answer one of the most asked questions on this channel anytime I talk about Axie Infinity, which is Axie Infinity still worth starting today? Especially in late 2021 or 2022, when it seems like everyone has already heard about this game. Is it just too late to get in now? Is it not worth it? If this is something that you've been wondering about and you appreciate me covering this topic, then remember to leave a big thumbs up and let's get into it. So this is a question that I have been putting a ton of thought into because I didn't want to just sit up here and just spew off what the thoughts were coming to the top of my head. I actually wanted to think about the pros and cons of starting Axie Infinity today. So this video is going to be structured with first two arguments against starting Axie Infinity. And these are what I think are the two best arguments against starting Axie Infinity. But before I get into those, I want to tell you not to stop watching after I get into those arguments against starting, because then I'm going to respond to both of those two arguments and provide three additional reasons why I think Axie Infinity is worth getting into. So we're going to be looking at two negatives and then responding a total of 5 positive points why Axie Infinity is worth getting into. And I can be pretty convincing, so if you only watch the first part, it's going to sound like Axie is a terrible game. So please watch the second part of this video as well. So let's start with the very first reason why it's too late, why you probably shouldn't get into Axie Infinity. And this reason is that there are better games coming. And this is an argument that you will hear a lot from people who are arguing against Axie Infinity's current dominance and who are claiming that Axie Infinity should not be the #1 game. And they say things like Illuvium is just around the corner, supposed to release in 2021, and it's gonna have much better graphics and it could have better play to earn mechanics. And yeah, Axie Infinity is doomed because the competition is almost here. And honestly, when you look at the Axie Infinity card game, it is a fun game, but it's also fairly simplistic. And when you look at some of the flashy graphics of future upcoming blockchain games, upcoming NFT games, upcoming play to earn games, it does seem like Axie Infinity might not have its shine as the only real play to earn game that's an actual fun game and has strong earning mechanics that's on the market. And if that changes, there's a strong argument to be made that Axie Infinity could lose some of its daily active players. And I think this is a really interesting argument worth thinking about. And I will be responding to this argument though in a minute. So remember to stay tuned for my response to this reasoning. But I now want to move on to the second reason why Axie Infinity probably isn't worth getting into. But once again, guys, don't stop watching just after I give the second point and be like, yeah, Axie is not worth it. But this second point is really worth thinking about as well. And that is that the Axie Infinity economy, the play to earn mechanics that are currently in place for Axie Infinity, it's set up like a classic pyramid scheme. However, this is not how the economy is going to be long term. So let's talk about how the economy works. So currently, in order to start playing Axie Infinity, you have to buy your first 3 Axies, which are NFTs, and you're buying them from another player who's already been playing and who has bred these NFTs. Now, when someone new buys in, that is what provides the earnings for the current players who exist. And in order for everyone who currently owns Axies, in order for them to continue being able to play and earn, there has to be more and more demand for these new Axies that are being bred. And this demand comes from new players that start playing the game. So if ever we reach a point where there's just way more current players than there are new players that meet the demand for all of the Axies that are being bred, then the earnings mechanics for Axie Infinity could quickly fall apart. And we've already been seeing SLP go down a ton from its peak over 30 cents. I think around 37 cents you could sell SLP for at one point. And now SLP is far below that. And the question is, where will SLP finally start finding its stability once again? Because so far, it has just been falling day after day after day. And when the cryptocurrency that you can farm for playing a game keeps falling, well, then it means that there might be less new people interested in starting, which will then cause it to fall again because there's not demand for what SLP gives you, which is the ability to breed Axies. So this is a really strong argument for not starting Axie Infinity. And I think it's important to say here, before we move on to my responses to these negatives, that Axie Infinity should not be gotten into as an investment. And if the sole reason that you're buying into Axie Infinity is for an investment, then I would say that actually you probably shouldn't get into Axie Infinity. But I hope that you guys are still watching and that there's not a bunch of people clicking away right now, because now we're gonna respond to these arguments and talk about the 5 reasons why Axie Infinity is worth getting into. So we're gonna start off by responding to the very first negative point I made, which was that there's competition coming, there's gonna be more fun games, and Axie Infinity is not gonna be the number 1 anymore. So I will respond to that by saying Axie Infinity has its own new games coming. In fact, Axie Infinity is gonna be its own competition that makes its own current game obsolete. Axie Infinity is far ahead of the curve, and the current card game that they have right now is not ever and was never supposed to be what Axie Infinity is. The infinity in Axie Infinity means that there's supposed to be a ton of experiences, a ton of games that you're able to play with your Axies. And we already see a couple of these new games in development. In fact, Battles version 2, which is a whole new battle system, a whole new way to fight with your Axies with better animations and more fun gameplay, is on its way. And Ubisoft, who's actually kind of working in partnership as a mentor to the Sky Mavis team who created Axie Infinity, Ubisoft has said that the new battles is actually a lot more fun than the current card battle system. So this new battle system that's eventually going to come out, that's going to release as a fresh game for Axies to play, is totally going to be bringing in more demand in the future. So buying in now during this slump when Axies have been falling a lot in price, it's a good possibility that if a ton more demand comes in when games like Battles version 2 come out for Axie Infinity, that you might be able to sell your Axies for more when a lot more people want to try out this new battle game. But that's not the only thing the Sky Mavis team is working on. They're also building Lunacia, which is going to be the land gameplay in Axie Infinity's universe. And Lunacia has a lot of promising gameplay mechanics that are going to be coming with its release as well, kind of like a kingdom defense game and resource gathering. And yeah, it's going to be a whole new gameplay experience for Axie Infinity as well. But what's really cool about Lunacia is you can actually own land in the world of Lunacia. And if you're a landowner in Lunacia, you're going to be able to create your own games on your land. And that means that as an Axie owner running around Lunacia, it's possible that 10 years from now, I could be running through a land where there is just hundreds of games available for me to play, a ton of them with play to earn mechanics, and owning a Axie in the future might be far more valuable than it is now. So that is the first reason why I think Axie Infinity is actually still worth getting into. Now let's look at my second reason, which is responding to the second reason not to get into it, which was that Axie Infinity is a Ponzi scheme. So let's talk about my response to that. And my response is that Axie Infinity's economy is actually getting far more robust. And the days of it being a pyramid, I think, will be short-lived. I'm actually very confident that Axie Infinity's economy is only going to be this same setup for about a year or maybe 2 years more before we start getting far more robust earnings mechanics in the Axie Infinity economy. So let me give you 2 examples for how the earnings and the economy are going to be getting strengthened in the future. One that I am very, very excited for is future Axie burning mechanics, which essentially are going to be a sink, a deflationary mechanism for the total populations of Axies in existence. Now, what makes Axie Infinity pyramid right now is that currently you buy Axies and then you try to convince more people to buy Axies, but it's not like Bitcoin where if someone wants to buy a Bitcoin, they have to buy it from someone who already owns it. In Axie, if you want to buy Axies, someone can keep their current Axies and then just generate more Axies, and then bam, there's just more Axies for everyone. So the total number of Axies is inflating and inflating and inflating, and that is kind of what makes it a pyramid scheme, is that you're generating something something that is kind of losing value as there's more and more and more of it. And that's why eventually it will collapse if there's a billion or 15 billion or 30 billion Axies and only 10 billion people on the world. Well, then they're just not going to be that valuable of an NFT. But once these Axie burning mechanics start getting implemented and we start to see sinks for Axies, and some of the reasons why you're going to want to burn Axies or release them or send them into another metaverse, however you want to think about it. The reason you're going to want to do that is because you're going to get crafting material in exchange for destroying your Axies. And crafting material is going to be used for leveling up other Axies or leveling up your land in Lunacia. This is going to create a whole new demand mechanism for Axies going forward, where even current players want to continue buying more Axies off the marketplace or breeding and destroying their own Axies in order to get these crafting materials. Also, there's a possibility that in the future, this is the second example I want to give, that SLP might be used for even more than breeding Axies. Who knows? There could be other demand utility pieces of SLP that can be set up in the future. So both of these two things, and the fact that the team behind Axie Infinity is very committed to its long-term sustainability, makes me fairly confident that even though Axie Infinity is set up like a pyramid scheme now, which is destined to fail eventually if nothing changes, they have a lot of great ideas to make the economy more robust. And I think there's a very good chance that Axie Infinity and the play to earn mechanics in Axie Infinity are going to be here for the long term. But once again, there is risk. And if you're buying Axies just for an investment, there's definitely safer investments out there. But now I want to get to 3 additional reasons why I think Axie Infinity is worth getting into beyond just my responses to the reasons not to get into Axie Infinity. So my third reason to play Axie Infinity is that it's fun. And this is a reason to still get into Axie Infinity, even if you're watching this in 2030. And that is that when you own Axies, you get to play Axie Infinity and whatever games are available for your Axies to participate in. So even right now, when there's just the basic battling and adventure games available for your Axies, it's still a fun game to play. And I find enjoyment when I'm competing at high levels in PvP, trying to outsmart my opponents. It's just a fun card game. And if you like card games, then I think it's worth getting into Axie Infinity just for the fun of playing. And there's some inherent value in Axies and in owning Axies just because of the parts of the metaverse that get unlocked when you own Axies. And the number of experiences that you're gonna be able to have when you own Axies is just gonna be growing. And when there's more and more things that you can do in the Axie Infinity universe, the number of experiences that your Axies can participate in grows, then the value inherently of your Axies is gonna grow as well, just as there's more and more fun that's unlocked for owning an Axie. So I think that's a really good reason by itself to own Axies. Remember, the current traditional video game space, which you cannot earn in really at all unless you're one of like the very 0.0001% top of players and can actually play professionally. Currently, it's a tens of billion-dollar industry where people are pouring billions currently into video games and not getting anything in return. So just the possibility, the potential to earn with your Axies is a bonus, and the fun just makes it like another normal game that it's worth buying because you can play it. But I also think there's a lot more value behind Axies than just the fun aspect. But yeah, I think that's a really, really important point, and I would be remiss not to bring it up. Now let's talk about the fourth reason why I think it's worth playing Axie Infinity. The fourth reason I think Axie Infinity is worth getting into even now is that Axie Infinity has historical significance and is always going to have that collector value because it was the first massively adopted play-to-earn video game ever made. And that in and of itself gives it a place in the history books, and owning some of the rare or valuable land or mystic Axies or origin Axies or even just low ID Axies, I think is gonna give it some collector value by itself, even after there's hundreds of play to earn games, or even after the entire video game industry moves onto the blockchain. Axie Infinity is still gonna be remembered as the first real big play to earn game, the #1 game at the very beginning. And I think that that will make even my great grandkids have some kind of collector desire to own Axies, because there's some street cred in owning the assets in the very first play to earn game, just how there's street cred in owning CryptoPunks because it was the first NFT collectible project. I think that same logic is going to apply, and there's going to be a ton of street cred in owning Axies. So just another thing to think about. All right, my fifth and final reason why I believe Axie Infinity is still worth getting into. Remember, we had those 2 responses and now 3 free-flowing reasons why I think Axie is totally worth getting into still. And this 5th reason is that Axie Infinity is community owned, and the community has a ton of money now. The fact that Axie Infinity went viral and has been generating hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue means that now this team and this community, us, the community behind Axie Infinity, we have so many resources to ensure that this game is gonna continue surviving, thriving, growing, improving, and that, I think, is a really bullish sign. The Axie Infinity team built this game with almost no resources, but now the resources available to the team are almost endless. They can hire AAA talent, they can develop brand new gaming projects to use Axies in, and the fact that there's so much money behind this now, and then the community-owned side with AXS, control of the treasury, the fact that the community has ownership in this project as well, and control in the say of like where we want Axie Infinity to go moving forward, I think provides a really strong argument for why Axie Infinity is going to be here for the long term and why it's still worth getting into now. Because everything that's been built now, that exists now for Axie Infinity, was built using almost no money. And throwing a ton of money behind something doesn't mean that it's going to be great, but the fact that future parts of the Axie Infinity metaverse are just going to have a lot more funding behind them make me very confident that you still have this incredible team with great ideas that's really smart about what they're building, and now they have resources and they can hire. It's going to be incredible, and there is tons of potential. So there you have it, guys. My 2 reasons not to get into Axie Infinity, but then what I think far overwhelms those, the 5 reasons why you should get into Axie Infinity. If you guys enjoyed this fair kind of thought experiment on whether or not it's still worth getting into Axie Infinity, you enjoyed hearing my thoughts on both sides of the issue, then a thumbs up would be greatly appreciated. I try to make the best content that I can for you guys. And then also, if you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Make sure you hit subscribe and click that notification bell so that you don't miss any future on-chain gaming content. This channel is all about gaming on the blockchain, the future of the Ready Player One style metaverse, and play to earn gaming. So if you're excited about those things like I'm excited about those things, make sure you're a subscriber to this channel. And then I will end by saying thank you to our incredible Patreon supporters. You're who enable us to make this content. I'm not making these videos by myself. I say it every single video, but Nate, my brother, edits these and does an incredible job doing that. And Josh, our friend, does the sound design and the original intro and outro music as well. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. And yeah, thank you for your support. And until next time, everyone, have fun roaming the metaverse.